Incredible twist, millionaire CEO's son shockingly chooses Maid over Socialites revealed. Jaydon Richards leaned against the cold marble wall of his family's mansion, staring out the large bay window that framed the perfectly manicured lawns. Outside, the suburban town of Maplewood glittered in the afternoon sun, but within him was a tempest swirling with unease. As the only son of a wealthy CEO, a life filled with privilege was laid out before him, yet the real world felt only a breath away, muffled by the walls of expectations and obligations that pressed down like a suffocating cloak. He craved authenticity, a feeling that seemed as distant as the stars in the night sky. His thoughts spiraled as he recalled the lavish gala from last weekend, where he had smirked and nodded through hollow conversations punctuated by whispers about family legacies. Beneath the velvet ropes and designer dresses, people traded secrets and smiles like currency, each exchange a reminder of what he wanted to escape. But escaping meant rejecting the future his father had meticulously crafted. The weight of his family's aspirations threatened to crush his spirit. Could he dare to choose a different path? Then there was Maria, the family maid who tirelessly served the household but also nurtured the dreams of her daughter, Sophia. Their late-night study sessions unfolded like magic, igniting a part of him long extinguished under the flashlight of parental pressure. Sophia's laughter filled the gaps in his life and sparked debates that made his soul feel free. But now, with whispers of an elite scholarship circulating through Maplewood's elite circles, he felt torn between privilege and connection. Should he pursue the scholarship that could elevate his status, or should he risk everything for the authenticity Sophia represented? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He stared at the media headlines that lauded his family's achievements while the truth of his heart felt like a curse hidden beneath the surface. Racing thoughts crushed his clarity. The scholarship loomed like a door beckoning him, promising an escape from the glitter but demanding a loyalty he feared was misplaced. What would it mean for his bond with Sophia, whose hunger for life illuminated his darkest corners? As he paced, his muscles tightened with anxiety, the prospect of his father's wrath boiling behind the mask of parental love. Align with the family legacy, he could almost hear his father's voice declaring like an unspoken law, or lose everything you've ever known. And as if summoned by the weight of his introspection, his father strode into the room, eyes cold like steel, ready to carve a path just for his son. You're a Richards, Jaydon. Your future is set, don't forget that. The authority of those words gripped him like chains, threatening to drag him back to a destiny that felt eerily claustrophobic. The familiar sensation of despair washed over him. This was more than expectation, this was life dictated by fear. As the night of Maplewood's extravagant gala approached, whispers turned sharp, slicing through his tenuous thoughts. A conversation he overheard sent a chill down his spine. A plot to leverage his father's power in a way that could crush Maria and Sophia's family entirely unfolded before him. The layers of complexity only deepened his turmoil. This moment, this choice, was no longer just about him. The stakes soared beyond himself. It was a reckoning with the very essence of privilege and injustice. With a heart racing towards an uncharted destiny, Jaydon stood at the precipice of decision, feeling the pressure of love and ambition weaving an intricate web around him. The path ahead blurred as the shadows of consequence loomed large, and the choice felt like it could either unravel all or bind him tighter to his family's legacy. The tension thickened, leaving him gasping for clarity in a world where happiness and duty warred for control of his soul. Jaydon stood frozen, contemplating the weight of his next move. Each breath felt heavy with the realities he could no longer ignore. The allure of the elite scholarship sparkled like the diamond-studded ties of Maplewood's creme aristocracy, but the thought of abandoning his connection with Sophia clawed at his heart. With each passing second, the echoes of his father's words looped in his mind, "Your future is set." Yet, the notion stung like an open wound. Was there truly no way to forge his own path? He stepped back from the window, pacing the polished floors that endlessly reflected his turmoil. This decision was more than a choice between scholarships, it was a liberation from the gilded prison of expectation. Could he even claim that freedom without turning against the very fibers of his upbringing? The thought of Sophia's laughter ignited a sense of bravery within him, fueling a whisper of courage budding in his chest. His phone vibrated, disrupting his spiraling thoughts. A text from Sophia read, "Are we still meeting tonight? I want to show you something." With a quick glance at the grand clock ticking unrelentingly on the wall, he felt the minutes bleed into each other. Had he really agreed to meet her, amidst this storm? The thought both thrilled and terrified him. Tonight could be a simple study session or the catalyst that would shape a new reality. Arriving at their familiar spot, a secluded bench beneath a sprawling oak tree that seemed to live and breathe like them, Jaydon was met by Sophia's radiant smile. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation, a bright contrast to his own bubbling anxiety. "I've been working on my project about ancient civilizations. Want to help me brainstorm?" she asked, her enthusiasm infectious. "Absolutely," he replied, shaking off the weight clinging to him like shadows. As they dove into their project, a delicate mix of history and creativity, Jaydon felt himself awakening. Sophia's passion flooded him with clarity. There's purpose here, he realized. A way to create without boundaries. Ideas flowed between them like water, and for the first time in weeks, his pressures receded, replaced by a sense of possibility. They discussed, debated, and developed concepts that transcended the confines of their worlds, yet, as twilight began to descend, the heaviness of his reality crept back in. He caught himself glancing at his phone, torn between the demands of his family and the convictions blossoming beside Sophia. What would happen if he chose to rise against his father's ambitions? Would he shatter the world his father had built just to craft his own? The thought sent shockwaves through him. "Jaydon, is something bothering you?" Sophia's voice interrupted his troubled reverie, laced with concern that he hesitated but decided there was a truth he needed to reveal. "Sophia, I overheard something about my father using his influence to exploit families like yours. This scholarship, it's not just a chance for me, it could cost you everything." The weight of his confession hung heavily between them, their eyes locking in a fierce exchange of understanding. Sophia's expression hardened. "What will you do about it?" The earnestness behind her question ignited a spark in him. What would he do? The answer simmered just below the surface, teasing him with uncertainty. This wasn't merely about the scholarship anymore, it was about standing up for the people he cared about over the legacy imposed on him. "Tonight, I'm going to confront my father," he declared abruptly, feeling the adrenaline pulse through his veins. An unexpected clarity took hold, shifting his internal landscape. "This is bigger than me." As they began to pack their books, resolve surged through Jaydon, a knowledge of empowerment, a glimpse into who he might become. Still, doubt nagged at the edges of his ambition. Was this the right decision? Would courage protect him, or cost him everything he had ever known? "I'll support you, whatever you choose," Sophia said softly, her words wrapping around him like a promise. Fueled by her unwavering loyalty, he headed homeward. Each step becoming lighter, but the fear of confrontation loomed ominously ahead. What awaited him in the luxury and chaos of his father's world? Tonight would reveal the depths of his conviction or tighten the chains he so desperately sought to break. Jaydon entered the mansion, where shadows danced under the ornate chandeliers, casting an eerie glow. Each step on the marble floor echoed, heralding his arrival into the realm of expectations he had come to resent. The air was thick with tension, laden with the unspoken words of his father, who had carefully crafted a legacy that felt stifling. As he moved through the corridor, he heard laughter emanating from the grand room, a cacophony of voices celebrating wealth, accomplishment, and prestige. His heart raced. This was the world he'd been bred to inherit, yet it felt like a gilded cage. He paused outside the ornate doors, collecting himself. Would his father welcome this clash of ideals, or would it end in rejection? Pushing the heavy door open, Jaydon stepped into the lavish gathering, instantly met by an orchestra of polite chatter. The guests, dressed in their finery, turned to inspect the intrusion. His father stood at the center, regal and commanding, his laughter ringing out with an authority that sent chills down Jaydon's spine. At that moment, Jaydon felt like a stranger in his own home. "Jaydon, come join us." His father beckoned, a grin illuminating his features. The immediate relief in his father's tone was a tension all its own. It masked a deeper control, a desire to showcase his son's compliance with the family narrative. Jaydon could only muster a nod, but that simple gesture felt like a resignation. "Father, can we talk?" he finally managed to utter, his voice laced with a firmness that surprised even him. Whispers circled the room, curiosity piqued. "Of course, son," the patriarch replied, cloaking the demand in feigned casualness. They moved towards a quieter alcove, where the music faded, leaving Jaydon with nothing but the awareness of his thudding heart. "What's the matter?" "You look like you've seen a ghost," his father said, eyebrows raised, as if dismissing the significance of Jaydon's turmoil. "It's about the scholarship, and the families you might be hurting," Jaydon responded, finding courage in the awareness that truth carried its own weight. Each word hung sharply in the air, its implications unfurling like fire. "Those families? They are unfortunate, but that's how the world works, Jaydon. You must learn to navigate it," his father replied dismissively, a slight frown forming as he leaned closer, exuding a silent threat. "Your future is not about them. It's about building your own empire." Jaydon's chest tightened, a growing realization thrumming beneath his skin. "It shouldn't come at the expense of others," he retorted, an urgency surging within him. The adrenaline mingled with fear as he recognized the depths he had to traverse, not only to defend the vulnerable but to reclaim his own identity. "You sound reckless. Are you choosing to side with them over your future?" his father declared, the tone drumming with expectation, a thinly veiled reprimand cloaked in a veneer of concern. With the world around him blurring, Jaydon saw flashes of Sophia's laughter, her fiery determination sparking in his memory. She had questioned him, challenged him to think and feel deeply about choices that mattered. "I want something different. I want to be free," Jaydon said, his voice steadying. The moment resonated, thickened with suffocating possibility. Could he really break the ties that bound him? His father's expression hardened, revealing a glimpse of disapproval that burned brighter than any light in the room. "You'll regret this impulsiveness. No, father. I won't conform just because it's expected," Jaydon interrupted, an unexpected boldness propelling him forward. The room fell silent, a collective breath held as he felt the walls of the mansion close around them, each brick a representation of his father's control. In that moment, clarity washed over Jaydon. This was not merely a confrontation, it was a revelation of the paths he could carve for himself. Would he endure the fallout of his declaration, standing firm against the destiny his father dictated? As the tension pulsed between father and son, Jaydon prepared for the realization that acceptance could mean disowning everything he once stood for. Would he emerge with his identity intact, or would he find deeper bonds of conviction splintering beneath expectations? He took a step back, glancing into the eyes of those present, sensing the awaited judgment. The bitter taste of uncertainty lingered on his tongue. "Tonight isn't just about you or me, it's about justice, and I can't let this continue," he stated firmly, his mind racing with the implications of his own words as the gravity of his declaration etched itself into the silence. But as his father's expression hardened further, Jaydon felt the weight of impending chaos. Would courage auto-ignite a rebellion from all he'd known, or simply kindle the flames of familial disintegration? The momentary placidity shattered, tension crackling like lightning, igniting within him a choice that would rip apart the foundations of both their worlds. He stood at the edge of transformation. The decision loomed ahead, dark and unrelenting, threatening to rip away the very fabric of his familial ties. What would he choose when everything he feared lay in the balance? The silence in the grand room was suffocating, thick as the heavy fabric of the curtains that framed the windows. Jaydon felt the weight of the eyes around him, disapproving, confused, disbelieving. It was as if every guest had suddenly transformed into a judge, their verdicts hanging in the air, creating a barrier he had to navigate. His father stood unmoving, the rigid lines of his jaw betraying a mixture of fury and disappointment. Beneath the facade of wealth and power, Jaydon could sense the cracks forming in the carefully crafted image his father had built. This moment was more than a familial confrontation, it was a fracture in a legacy. "What are you doing, Jaydon?" His father's voice cut through the charged atmosphere, sharper than the chandelier's crystal. "You embarrass yourself. Do you understand what you're throwing away?" Clarion truths began to unravel in Jaydon's mind. Each question from his father chipped away at the facade he had constructed around his own wavering convictions. Embarrassment? No, he felt liberated. This was no longer about wealth but about self-worth, and he could no longer ignore the pulse of justice that throbbed within him. "I'm trying to stand for what's right," Jaydon said, surprised yet resolute as he felt a surge of belief pushing through the surface of his fear. "I don't want this life if it means hurting others." The guests exchanged furtive glances, whispers ricocheting through the gallery like fireworks. Jaydon's heart raced not from fear, but adrenaline. With each beat, he felt a little more alive, a little more polarized from the life he had always thought he wanted. Would this be his undoing? His father had raised him to be a player in a ruthless game, but now he was rethinking the rules. What if he could disrupt the game instead? The potential for rebellion against his own upbringing ignited a spark deep within him, a fire he hadn't planned on battling but now felt compelled to tend. The confrontation simmered, and yet the room was vast with distaste as Jaydon began stepping back from the looming decision, assessing each voice of doubt that nagged at him. He couldn't shake the image of Sophia, grounded and strong in her advocacy for the underprivileged. Her words echoed in his mind as he reflected on the choices ahead. "What kind of man do you want to be, Jaydon? Stay here. Don't make this worse," his father warned, now texture tinged with desperation as he grabbed Jaydon's arm, authoritative yet shaky. "No, I refuse to let you dictate my path." Jaydon pulled away, a sense of clarity crystallizing with each passing moment. In that brief moment of rebellion, he felt liberated, untethered from the expectations that had long weighed him down. With every second, Jaydon felt himself defining who he wanted to be. It was not merely about the scholarship, it was about redefining success on his own terms, away from the exclusivity and elitism that left so many behind. He stepped forward, feeling the force of his conviction fuel his resolve. "I'm not just your son tonight, I'm a person with his own values. I want to fight for those families, and if that means abandoning this world you've built, then so be it." The room shifted, an energy palpable enough to almost taste like iron in the air. What would happen next? The possibilities raced through Jaydon's mind as uncertainty clashed with fervor. Would his father retaliate? Would he find allies in the very people who once celebrated his lineage? And then, a soft gasp came from the doorway. Jaydon turned to see Sophia entering, her presence like a balm to the tension. "What is going on?" she asked, her brow furrowed in concern, piercing through the suffocating air with the strength of her spirit. In that instant, a choice unfolded before him. With her here, he felt empowered. But with his father's reaction growing in intensity, Jaydon knew that the stakes were steep, and perhaps the cost of his conviction was exponentially rising. Would he be ready to embrace the chaos of change? Jaydon thought as the moment hung thick with potential. As he stood there, grounded by both Sophia's unwavering eyes and the burden of his family's legacy, he knew he was on the brink of a new reality. But could he really face both his father and an uncertain future, in that pressured stillness, surrounded by the grandiosity of the room and the might of his father's ire? Jaydon's next words could either ignite the spark of transformation or snuff it out entirely. The direction of his life was about to shift. The real question lingered. Was he ready to step out from the shadow of the mansion and redefine his existence? The pivotal moment had arrived, and so had the reflection of judgment. Would his voice become a clarion call for personal revolution, or would it retreat into the echoes of history? The air grew still as Jaydon's gaze locked with Sophia's, each second stretching out, heavy with expectation. Her presence anchored him amidst the tempest of doubt swirling around him. She hadn't wavered. Her spirit radiated confidence that challenged the very foundation of his father's world. "Jaydon, I came to find you," Sophia said softly, taking a tentative step closer, her eyes a mirror reflecting his internal conflict. You don't have to do this alone. He could hear the silence echoing around them, punctuated only by the stammering whispers of guests who had long lost the thread of their festivities. Would he continue to lean into this new direction or retreat back into complacency? The question dug into his skin like a thorn, but in its grasp, he felt a quiet fire igniting within. "Stay out of this, Sophia," his father barked, his voice thunderous, laden with authority and disregard. "You don't belong here." Jaydon felt a surge of protectiveness rise to meet the challenge. "She belongs here more than you do right now, Dad," he countered, surprising even himself with the forcefulness of his words. "This isn't just about your legacy anymore. It's about our future, my future." His father's face contorted in disbelief, the ghost of a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Your future? You call this chaos a misguided revolt against all that I've built? It's self-destruction." "No," Jaydon shot back, the adrenaline coursing through his veins amplifying his courage. "It's self-discovery. Perhaps you've built a gilded cage for me, but now I see the bars." The guests shifted uncomfortably, some caught in a fascination that morphed quickly into unease. Jaydon could almost feel their collective breath, suspended in time, holding on to an outcome that lay in his hands. Sophia's eyes widened, brimming with admiration and encouragement. "You're more than your father's son, Jaydon. You have a voice, and it matters. You can change this narrative." Could he? The heart of the question throbbed in his chest. A landscape of possibility unfolded before him, a horizon not dictated by his father's expectations. But the risk was daunting. Stepping away meant embracing uncertainty. "Your footsteps have led you into darkness," his father spat, gradually losing his composure. "What do you think will happen when the world sees you for who you truly are, a traitor? You'll lose everything, including her." "Maybe," Jaydon mused, forcing himself to confront the risk head-on. "But I'm finally shedding the weight of expectations forged in fear. I can't walk this path if I have to trample over others to do it. I choose honesty, I choose integrity, and if that offends you, so be it." At that moment, a flicker of doubt flared within him, a thought that begged to be voiced. What did he truly have to lose? The answer pulsed in his veins, the essence of himself, unmasked and raw, a peace that no amount of wealth could ever secure. He let the silence envelop him, drawing strength from the intensity of the moment. The world around seemed to fade, replaced by the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, each pulse redirecting him toward self-acceptance. Jonah, one of his father's chosen allies, finally stepped forward, a bravado attempt to salvage the scene. "You're making a grave mistake, Jaydon. You may think you're on the right side of history, but you'll be ostracized. Is losing your status worth it? What is status without substance?" Jaydon retorted, emboldened. "I refuse to sacrifice my values at the altar of acceptance." The battle lines had been drawn, but there was no clear victor in sight. "Stand behind me, Sophia," he implored, his voice steady yet resolute, as he took a step forward. The tension warped, an electric heat surging through him as he took ownership of not just the moment, but of his identity. Jaydon turned back to his father, who stood now a shadow of the man he once feared. "You may not accept me in this choice, but this is my life. I'll forge my own path, and one day, I hope you'll see it was for the better." With the moment suspended between aspiration and defiance, Jaydon sensed winds of change violently tugging at his very core. The uncertainty was frightening but intoxicating, his heart thundering with a potent mix of anticipation and fear. As he moved forward, feeling the shift of loyalty, perhaps even love, unfurling behind him, he realized that he was not merely rejecting his father but stepping into his own light. What awaited him was both thrilling and terrifying, a future painted with unpredictability. Would he truly have the strength to face what lay beyond the weight of legacy? Jaydon thought, solidifying the resolve within him. In this delicate dance of liberation, history would demand its reckoning. With each step toward the door, with Sophia by his side and uncertainty roaring before him, the night shimmered with the promise of awakening. Would he be able to navigate the tumultuous waters of transformation, or would the tide of his father's legacy wash him back ashore? Jaydon stepped beyond the threshold of the room, leaving behind the remnants of his father's world. The clamor of shocked whispers faded to a dull roar as he crossed the threshold, the air outside feeling fresher, alive with possibility. Still, uncertainty weighed heavy on his heart. He had severed ties with a destiny dictated by legacy, but had he also opened himself up to vulnerability? Sophia walked closely beside him, her presence both an anchor and a light. They moved further away from the elegant chaos of the gathering, seeking refuge in the quiet of the garden that lay beyond. The moon hung above, illuminating their path in silver rays, and for the first time, Jaydon took a deep breath, seeking clarity amid the storm of emotions within him. "Are you sure about this?" Sophia asked, her voice steady even as her eyes searched his. The concern etched on her face contradicted the warmth her presence provided. It was clear she recognized the magnitude of the decision he had just made. "No," Jaydon replied candidly, fighting to keep his voice calm, "but I can't go back. This is the first time I've felt something real, and I can't let fear paralyze me." The words flowed freely, reflecting the newfound resolve that surged through him. The sense of being unmoored was terrifying, yet intoxicating. "Then what's next?" Sophia pressed gently, seeking to pull him back from the cliff of self-doubt. "Do you have a plan?" The question caught him off guard. It had been so easy to draw a line in the sand against his father, the emotional fervor had propelled him forward. Yet translating that fervor into actionable steps felt daunting. I don't know," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've spent my life following a script, and now I have to write my own." The garden felt both expansive and confining, much like his thoughts. Every tree, every flicker of the garden lights pressed upon him the weight of potential. How could he craft his future? A wave of panic surged within. What if he faltered? What if he disappointed those who believed in him? Yet, beneath that panic, a flicker of recognition stirred. He had the chance to shape his own narrative. "We can figure it out together," Sophia urged, her conviction evident. "What do you love? What drives you?" His mind raced. It was difficult to sift through the clutter of expectations that had built up over the years, but one realization broke through: his passion for helping others, for creating spaces where people could thrive, not just survive. "I've always wanted to start something meaningful," he confessed, eyes lighting up with the thought. "A platform for voices like ours. To challenge the status quo." "Then let us do it," she said, that unwavering intensity pooling in her gaze. "Fuel that fire." Fueled by a profound mixture of excitement and trepidation, Jaydon felt the first stirrings of a plan. They could create avenues for others, offer a space for all the misfits who had been silenced, just as he had been. But the reality of execution loomed ahead, stark and illuminated. Transforming the dream into something tangible would challenge him in ways he had yet to comprehend. "What if I fail?" he asked, a raw vulnerability in those words. Would he have what it took to face both the internal and external battles that lay ahead? "Failure is part of growth," she replied softly. "But so is resilience. You already showed that tonight. Own your truth, Jaydon." As their conversation brought clarity, the night wore on, a silent witness to their collective ambition. Jaydon felt the fractures of his past decision begin to knit together. He was carving his path, not for the glorious accolades but for purpose. But just as he began to envision a future painted with vibrancy, the familiar figure of Jonah stepped into view, a dark cloud now hovering over their newfound hope. Jaydon's heart thumped against his chest. This confrontation would reveal whether his courage was deep-rooted or simply a temporary high. "Running away from your father's legacy won't shield you from the reality of who you are," Jonah sneered, stepping closer, determination clashing with Jaydon's resolve. "You may think this is freedom, but it's ignorance." The stakes sharpened significantly, forcing Jaydon to reckon with the looming confrontation ahead. Was he truly ready for this battle? Would he stand firm or cower against the very shadows he had fought so hard to escape? The moment of truth beckoned, and all Jaydon could do was brace himself. Jaydon's pulse quickened, a mix of adrenaline and anxiety flooding his system as Jonah's words hung in the air like a weight on his chest. The soft glow of the garden lights painted a stark contrast to the darkness that Jonah's presence cast. Jaydon had spent his life under the shadow of his father's expectations, but now, here was Jonah, a living extension of that legacy, challenging him to confront his choice head-on. "You don't know anything about me, Jonah," Jaydon snapped, his voice sharpening. He fought the knee-jerk reaction to retreat but felt the flame of his newfound resolve strengthen within him. "I'm not running from anything, I'm stepping into my own life." "Stepping into delusion, you mean," Jonah shot back, his disdain evident. "You think you'll make a difference? You're just a poor imitation of your father, trying to carve out a space in a world that won't accept you. Those people you want to help, they'll see right through you." The confrontation lay bare Jaydon's vulnerabilities, the very fears that had festered beneath the surface. Yet, he could feel the flares of anger merge with the swell of determination. "You know, maybe you're right about one thing," he replied, gathering the scattered threads of his thoughts. "I might not have a plan yet. But at least I'm trying. At least I'm willing to create change instead of sitting comfortably inside the mold." Jonah's expression darkened, as though Jaydon's defiance collected storm clouds, threatening to unleash fury. "Change? You think you can change anything? You're nothing without your father's name." "Maybe," Jaydon acknowledged, holding Jonah's gaze, anchoring himself with each word. "But this isn't about his name anymore, it's about who I choose to be moving forward. And that choice does not include you." As he spoke, the realization settled over him like a benediction. This moment was crucial for more than just confronting Jonah, it was about asserting his own identity separate from the past. If anything, Jonah was an illustration of the person Jaydon did not want to become. The challenge ignited something within Jaydon. He envisioned the platform they could build, a sanctuary for the marginalized, echoing the very voices Jonah aimed to suppress. "When I do succeed, it won't be because of him, or any of you," Jaydon continued, feeling a tide of purpose swell. "It will be because I fought for something real, for my own truth." Sophia's presence remained steadfast beside him, her silent support providing an additional layer of strength. Jaydon took a step forward, unwilling to let Jonah anchor him in doubt any longer. "You can mock me all you want, Jonah, but I refuse to stay silent. We're done here, this conversation is over." Jonah's lip curled into a smirk, anger swelling beneath his composure. "You think you can just walk away from your past? You're deluding yourself, Jaydon. Life has a way of coming back to bite you when you least expect it." Jaydon felt the faintest tremor of fear, but he suppressed it, allowing the flames of his determination to burn hotter. "And maybe it's time I face it. But on my own terms, whatever that means." As he turned away, he felt the ground shift beneath him, not from the weight of the past, but from the sturdy foundation he was starting to build. The encounter ignited a fire within Jaydon that he knew he would need to nurture. Each step toward securing his future would require an openness to face challenges he hadn't yet imagined. He had poses he wanted to shift, systems he wanted to disrupt, visions that needed clarity, but as the calm of the garden enveloped him once again, an unexpected thought snagged in his mind. What resources would he need to bring this vision to fruition? Sourcing a network, understanding the intricacies of social change, dealing with potential backlash, and navigating uncharted waters, all of this now danced on the edge of his consciousness. That it was one thing to decide to act, it was another to ensure he had the tools to succeed. "Hey," Sophia's voice broke through his reverie, her tone laced with understanding. "What's on your mind?" Jaydon took a deep breath, the burden of uncertainty now mingled with excitement. "I'm just realizing that the journey begins now, and it will be a difficult one. I need to prepare, both mentally and practically." "Then start today," she encouraged. "Let us draw out the blueprint together." The urgency of the moment clicked into place, but Jonathan's earlier warning echoed ominously. He had kicked the door open to change, but would he be ready for the forces that sought to trip him along the way? "Absolutely," he affirmed, embracing the future before him. Yet, as he turned to plan, an unsettling thought arose: how far would Jonah go to protect the legacy he felt Jaydon was threatening? The question lingered, a new layer of threat against his burgeoning ambition, igniting yet another internal battle worth preparing for. The morning sun broke through the remnants of night, casting a warm glow that filled the workspace Jaydon had claimed for himself. It was a modest setting, a combination of a small desk, scattered papers, and a faint scent of coffee, a far cry from the polished, sterile environments he had seen in his father's world. This was where he would begin molding his vision into something tangible, a sanctuary emerging from the fragments of his past. Sophia was already seated at the table, her laptop open as she scoured resources with determined focus. "Let's tackle this systematically," she suggested, her excitement palpable. "First, we can identify allies and mentors. People willing to share their insights. The last thing we want is to walk into this blindly." Jaydon nodded, acknowledging the necessity of partnerships. He pulled out a notepad, the blank pages waiting to be filled with ideas and aspirations. But how could he trust anyone? Would they genuinely believe in his dream, or would they view him through the lens of his heritage, forever tied to the weight of expectations? As he scribbled names and ideas, each stroke echoed Jonah's taunts. The urge to prove them wrong loomed like a specter behind him. He clenched his jaw, forcing the anger down. "Right," he said slowly, needing to shift the narrative from one of defiance to collaboration. "Mentors would provide guidance. We can reflect on their experiences and avoid mistakes before making our own." Sophia paused, her eyes narrowing as she assessed him. "Jaydon, do you really believe you're stepping into unchallenged territory? Or is this about proving Jonah wrong?" There it was, the question that pierced through his protective exterior. "Does it matter?" He shot back defensively, his voice sharper than intended. "Change is change, regardless of the motivators." Sophia leaned back, arms crossed. The air thickened with tension, and for a moment, it felt like they were standing on the edge of a precipice. "Yes, but it matters to you. Acceptance is crucial, and if this journey is merely about rebelling against Jonah, it might be hollow." Her words ignited a flicker of doubt within him. Was he merely playing a part in a narrative scripted by others? He sank deeper into thought, weighing the importance of intrinsic motivation amidst the pressures of external perception. "Fine," Jaydon relented, exhaling heavily. "Let us focus on what this means for me, not them." "Good. So, what does it mean?" she prompted. Jaydon's thoughts raced as new possibilities began to unfurl. "It means I am creating something unique, a space that not only reflects my values but also empowers the people I want to help. I want it to resonate, to matter, to be rooted in authenticity." "Then let us start with defining that authenticity," Sophia replied. "What do you want this sanctuary to offer? What impact do you envision?" He paused, allowing the questions to marinate. In every moment of clarity, he saw the faces of those left behind, neglected yet resilient, overlooked yet possessing immense strength. "I wanted to amplify voices," he articulated slowly. "People should feel seen and heard. Their stories matter, and I want to let the legacy of privilege drown that out." Sophia smiled, the warmth of her encouragement stoking his drive. "That's a solid basis. Now, let us brainstorm activities and outreach methods. We can break this into sections: what it looks like, the resources you'll need, potential resistance." The frenzied energy of brainstorming charged the atmosphere as hours faded into focused creativity. But as their discussions evolved, Jaydon steeled against the creeping sense of doubt. Would Jonah attempt to undermine him? Would he see this as a chance to ruin everything Jaydon built? The moment Sophia proposed reaching out to potential partners through a community workshop, Jaydon's heart raced. "That's brilliant," he said, his excitement bubbling. "Establishing credibility before making any grand moves." "Exactly," Sophia confirmed, her enthusiasm infectious. "An open dialogue will showcase your commitment to understanding the community instead of swooping in with preconceived notions." Yet with every idea, Jaydon wrestled with the intricacy of authenticity clashing against the shadows of his lineage. How could he navigate these waters without being seen as a privileged child playing at activism? At that moment, an email notification from an unknown sender broke his concentration. He clicked it open, heart thudding as he read the terse message, "I know what you're planning. You're not ready for the consequences. Let us talk." A chill rippled through him, the weight of Jonah's words returning with renewed intensity. As uncertainty coiled around his gut, Jaydon realized his journey was far more perilous than he had anticipated. Would the forces aligned against him snuff out the nascent flame of change before it had a chance to burn brightly? The moment of truth loomed, and as Jaydon stared at the screen, he grappled with a choice that could determine the trajectory of everything he aspired to build. Would he respond or continue moving forward, oblivious to the dangers waiting in the wings? An hour passed, but Jaydon felt trapped in a time loop, the deafening silence interrupted only by Sophia's occasional murmurs as she continued to search online for potential community organizations. His heart raced, both anticipation and dread pooling in his stomach. Was Jonah truly monitoring him? A shiver crept up his spine at the thought of being so closely tracked, almost like a puppet with strings pulled by his brother's disapproval. "Jaydon, are you still with me?" Sophia's voice cut through his tumultuous thoughts. "Yeah, sorry," he replied, shaking his head as if to clear the fog. "I just got sidetracked." Sophia tilted her head, a knowing smile touching her lips. "You're weighing your options. I can see it. So, what are you thinking?" He rubbed the back of his neck, always a telltale sign of his growing anxiety. "I got this email," he confessed. "I don't want to sound paranoid, but it feels like someone else watching me. Watching us." Sophia leaned forward, her brows furrowing. "You have to consider it, then. It could be someone from your father's camp wanting to derail you, or it could be Jonah trying to intimidate you." The weight of his brother's influence constricted his chest, but he felt an undercurrent of rebellious defiance stir within him. "I won't let him scare me. I won't let anyone." "Good," Sophia replied, a mix of respect and resolve hardening her tone. "But think strategically. Responding hastily could put you at risk. Control the narrative." Jaydon nodded, appreciating the newfound clarity. "All right, I'll wait until I've mapped out my next steps." They returned to brainstorming, but inwardly, he wrestled with a growing sense of urgency. Each idea floated between audacity and inadequacy. What if he built something meaningful, only for it to be dismantled by Jonah's threats? As if reading his mind, Sophia challenged, "What's your endgame here, Jaydon? This isn't just about proving Jonah wrong. You need to define what it means for you personally." Breathing deeply, he attempted to sift through the noise in his head. "I think it's about acceptance. Not just for me, but also for the people I want to support. I want to help them understand their worth." Sophia's eyes sparkled with interest. "That resonates. Your challenges can be a strength. Use it to connect, not just to distance yourself from your family." "Right," he murmured, forging over the fresh determination overcoming his diffidence. "Maybe it's time I own my story, everything privilege, guilt, the pressure to conform. That and build something that transcends it. But you also need to confront the consequences, the ones Jonah hinted at." Sophia pressed, her glance sharpened, driving home the point. Jaydon fell quiet, contemplating the implications of stepping outside his comfort zone. What if the pressure gets overwhelming? What if I fail? What if Jonah gets involved and... Sophia shook her head, interrupting his spiraling thoughts. What if you soar? What if this sanctuary becomes a catalyst for growth, not just for you, but for the community? What if instead of fear, you replace it with purpose? The notion struck Jaydon like lightning, jolting him into awareness. For the first time, the concept of failure shifted from an anchor dragging him down to a mere stepping stone in his path. He glanced out the window, where the sunlight illuminated flickering leaves beyond the glass. Perhaps he could prepare for whatever Jonah's shadowy presence intended. With an intention that felt like a curtain lifting, Jaydon nodded resolutely. I need to confront Jonah. I need to meet his challenge with my own plan, my own conviction. That's the spirit, Sophia smiled, her own confidence buoying his. But tread carefully. Your next response needs to pave the way for your project's foundation, not just serve revenge. The fine thread between ambition and rebellion tightened within him. He sat back, heart racing not with fear but excitement as layers of his identity began peeling back to reveal his deeper motivations. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again with another message notification. This one was simple but chilling. You'll see soon enough. Don't make a move without thinking. Jaydon clenched his fist. This was the moment when he needed to prove himself to more than just his brother. The stakes were increasingly personal, and soon he would have to decide whether to back down from conflict or face it head-on. With renewed determination, he vowed silently to uncover the adversarial forces at play, along with unearthing his own strengths with a singular focus driving him forward, authenticity above all. As the horizon played with shades of dusk, Jaydon realized he was on the cusp of something monumental. Either it would escalate into chaos or clarity. What lay ahead would reveal not only his resolve but also the very essence of who he was about to become. Jaydon stood at the threshold of his new world, the shadows of the past being eclipsed by the brilliance of his budding resolve. Reflecting upon the tumultuous moments that had grated against his spirit and fueled his transformation, he felt a quiet sense of exhilaration. The confrontation with his father had been merely the beginning, a leap into the unknown that promised both peril and potential. In the weeks that followed his declaration, Jaydon embarked on a self-imposed journey of introspection and action. He sought out mentors, engaged with community leaders, and delved into the complexities of social justice. Each conversation not only expanded his understanding but also solidified his conviction he was not merely the son of a CEO groping toward purpose. He was an agent of change determined to break the cycle of oppression entrenched within his family's legacy. One Tuesday afternoon, he found himself at a local community center, sitting across from Maria, Sophia's mother. Maria looked up at him with deep-seated pride and concern weaving through her expression. "You're truly doing this, Jaydon. I see the passion you carry," she said softly, yet emboldened by his presence in the room. Her words resonated, feeling like an affirmation of all he had strived for, the authentic connection built upon understanding and mutual respect. Jaydon inhaled deeply, feeling more grounded than ever as the weight of expectation lifted. "Thank you, Maria," he replied, spotting Sophia across the room as she chatted enthusiastically with other youth advocates. "This is more than a project, it's about rebuilding trust and offering support where it's often ignored. I want to create a safe space for voices like yours." The sincerity in his voice spoke to the commitment he had forged, a stark contrast to his previous facade of status-driven ambition. Before he knew it, the first community workshop was scheduled. Inviting local families, activists, and students to tread alongside him as partners in justice rather than subjects of philanthropy felt invigorating. Jaydon's heart swelled with anticipation as they planned activities designed to spark dialogue and empower marginalized perspectives, a cacophony of dreams ready to emerge through collaboration. On the day of the workshop, Jaydon apprehensively glanced at the full room, colored by hesitant yet excited faces. Under the glow of ambient light, he stepped to the forefront, feeling an electricity ripple through him. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, the tremor in his voice quickly steadied by the sincerity pulsing within. "This isn't just a workshop, it's a movement, a place for our stories to collide." The echoes of his past did not dictate his present, but rather fueled his purpose. As he shared his journey, his conflicted relationship with privilege and the drive toward supporting those who felt unheard, he watched a transformation ripple through the crowd. Recognition, solidarity, and shared experiences blossomed, and a safe space began to foster connection. After the session, a young girl approached Jaydon, eyes glimmering with appreciation. "I didn't think anyone would care about our stories," she said, her voice trembling a bit. "Thank you for listening." The genuine gratitude transforming her face mirrored the profound effect Jaydon's hard work had begun to foster, the realization that he was creating not only a sanctuary, but also community. This sense of fulfillment fueled his passion. As days turned into weeks, the workshops blossomed into regular gatherings. Leadership emerged among peers who felt empowered to speak their truths. Jaydon stepped back, allowing them to navigate the dialogues. His transformation had morphed into an evolution of leadership that embraced collaboration over control. As he gazed over the growing sense of community, it dawned on him he had achieved true freedom. It was no longer his father's world dictating his existence. Confidence surged through him. He diligently cultivated trust with community leaders, secured partnerships with local enterprises, and put in place mentorships that would ultimately amplify their collective mission. Nothing could have prepared him for the visit from his father months later, the patriarch stepping into this new realm where Jaydon had staked his claim on authenticity. "I came to see what you've done," his father announced, skepticism lacing his words but tinted with an undertone of curiosity. Jaydon inhaled deeply. "Dad, it's about creating unity, not division. I've shifted from status to substance. I refuse to engage in a narrative that belittles anyone's worth." The moment hung in the air, with his father absorbing the depths of Jaydon's transformation. A flicker of recognition stirred within his father's eyes, hinting at unexpected respect, a connection beyond familial obligation that Jaydon had dared to finalize. "Perhaps," his father began, the words slowly unraveling, "an opportunity for reconciliation." "Let us work together," Jaydon interjected, his heart racing with poised audacity. "You have the means to foster true change, not just wealth. We could partner to help others." In that moment, Jaydon stood tall, worthy of unconditional love beyond his father's legacy, realizing that his true power lay in the authentic connections he forged, in the voices uplifted, and in the lives transformed through collaboration. This was no longer merely about shaping his destiny but about crafting a new narrative, one that held space for every individual's worth. With each step into this new reality, Jaydon felt the stakes had shifted. He was no longer shackled by the past, he wielded the future he had envisioned and fought tirelessly to realize. With a profound sense of satisfaction enveloping him, he found profound peace in understanding that true success stemmed from purpose. As dusk settled over Maplewood, Jaydon Richards emerged not only as an advocate for change but as a beacon of unyielding hope, an embodiment of personal achievement shaped by authenticity, compassion, and resolute action. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support and help us grow. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these powerful stories coming. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Your thoughts matter.